It's Kansas State week for Texas Tech as the Red Raiders head up to Manhattan to hopefully secure a win in a place that they have not historically had a lot of them. In today's video, we'll discuss what Joey McGuire had to say in his weekly presser leading up to the Kansas State matchup, including the latest injury news on Will Hammond. Was it just an ACL injury and how QB won? And some help on the offensive side of the football. Should be good to go against the Wildcats. Let's get to it. Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's RC Maxfield here for the Red and Black Report. Appreciate y'all tuning into today's video. We got a lot to discuss. So real quick promo, be sure to like the video, hit that subscribe button for 100% free Texas Tech content all year long. All right, I've got my notes app open. We've got a lot to discuss. Let's get to it, shall we? All right, so Joey McGuire had his weekly presser with the local media out in the 806, and the first words out of his mouth pertaining to Kansas State were the fact that this is going to be a physical matchup in Manhattan. He went on to say that he is a big proponent of what they are doing from a coaching perspective up there in Kansas State in the sense of the traditions and also just how well of a culture they have built there in Manhattan. But the biggest thing that Joey McGuire discussed in this press conference by far was the question asked about Behren Morton health. And McGuire confirms Behren Morton is in line to start and will be back as QB1 for the Red Raiders up in Manhattan this week. Joey said that Morton feels great, both with his arm and leg. They kept him out as a precaution against Oklahoma State. You may remember against the Cowboys, he did suit up in the second half just in case there was an emergency QB type situation. That did not come to pass, but QB1 Behren Morton will be back for the Red Raiders under center in Manhattan on Saturday afternoon. Also, some positive news on the other injury front for another prominent player on the Texas Tech offensive side of the football. It sounds like there's a decent chance. I don't want to say it's, a for sure thing, but a decent chance the Red Raiders get Terrence Carter Jr. back. That's something that's going to be more of a let's see how the week goes type deal, it seems like, but there's a decent chance it sounds like Texas Tech gets back tight end one as well as QB1. All right. Limiting Avery Johnson. This was the point that Joey McGuire talked about most. You have to have rush lane integrity if you're a Texas Tech. And we've talked about this quite a few times here on the channel so far this year, just because of the type of quarterback Texas Tech has already played within the Big 12. You think about it from the Devon Dampier at Utah, Sam Levitt. You've got Jalen Daniels as well, right? You have played guys that can move around at a very, very high level. Most notably, Jalen Daniels. You are going to have to do very similar things, if not at a higher level, against Avery Johnson. And that starts with rush lane integrity. You cannot get pushed past the quarterback if you are those edge rushers in David Bailey and Romello Height or whoever they have out there at that time. The defensive line has to work together as one unit and really corral Avery Johnson in the pocket. Make sure there's no rush lanes out of there. Well, at least limit the rush lanes, because at the end of the day, Avery Johnson is just too talented. He is going to make some plays that just wow you at times with his athletic ability. But if you can limit those and limit the opportunities he has to extend drives, you're going to have a much better chance to head back to the 806 with a W. Now, he talked about special teams as well. Him and Coach Kenny Perry, just really have talked about it ad nauseum this year, in the sense of the importance of special teams. Said Jacoby Williams has been arguably the best kick returner in college football the past 2 weeks, and honestly, fair. If you think about it, no penalties is the priority, and McGuire was adamant the Red Raiders are going to have to be good on special teams if they want to leave Manhattan with a W. Speaking of Manhattan, Texas Tech is not concerned about recent history when it comes to their, playing in Manhattan. You have to think about it in this perspective if you're a part of Red Raider Nation. Us as fans, we remember that, right? Like, we're in this year in and year out, right? A lot of these guys that are a part of the team initially, like when they're actually playing for Texas Tech, may not know the history between two schools in terms of if they're not traditional rivals, quote unquote, right? Like, there's only a couple guys on this roster that even played Kansas State recently, right? They didn't play last year. The last time Texas Tech played them, you don't really want to talk about that. But the Red Raiders don't have a lot of players on their current team that have played Kansas State before. So they are not fixated on the past, and Texas Tech really not winning a game in Manhattan since I believe Behren Morton was 6 years old. Fact check me on that, chat, and let me know in the chat if I'm right on that. I think I did the math correctly. But This is a new team. They're not worried about that. So there's a different mindset within this program, and rightfully so. Like, you can't control the past, but you can control what's ahead of you. And Texas Tech has a massive opportunity on their hands to really exercise some demons up in Manhattan on Saturday. Joey McGuire, once again, was asked about Jacob Rodriguez, and rightfully so, and his impact. He said he's the captain. He leads by example, not very vocal, but when he does talk, damn it, everybody listens. Okay. His stats back up the push for the Heisman in terms of Joey McGuire really saying, why is he not in the mix? Now, I don't know if he's going to win the Heisman. In fact, I think it's very slim that he does, because typically it goes to quarterbacks, but he should at least be in the conversation for it, in my opinion, and definitely needs to be considered, and maybe should be the front runner for the best linebacker in the country in the Buckus Award. And David Bailey, honestly, too, needs to be in that Heisman discussion. I mean, he's been unbelievable. At one point, he was leading the country in sacks and is really the biggest difference maker on the edge in college football. Maybe the only guy you could put in that conversation is Reuben Bain Jr. at Miami, but either way, those two guys are dominant edge rushers, and Jacob Rodriguez is just an all-around dominant linebacker, whether it's in the run game, the pass game, creating turnovers, whatever it may be. He's an absolute bona fide superstar, and arguably, top 3 at worst linebacker that's ever donned the scarlet and black. I mean, he's up there for sure. Now, the plan for the quarterback position in the offseason, we went live last night here on the channel to discuss in real time the Will Hammond ACL injury. Now, the good news is on the ACL front, if you can find a silver lining in it, according to Joey McGuire, it is strictly just an ACL. There was no other CL damage. So no PCL, MCL, any of that stuff. It was just the ACL. So it's going to be cleaner in terms of the procedure for Will Hammond. That being said, the minimum recovery time is 9 months, right? You can be ahead of it a little bit, but probably not much more than that. Okay. They are going to consider adding a quarterback in the portal this offseason. That is not breaking news. We talked about it last night, and it feels like it's the only thing they can do. Now, the interesting part is this. Joey McGuire did confirm in this presser as well. Mitch Griffiths does have 1 year of eligibility remaining because he did not play college football last year, and Joey McGuire is very happy about that. He feels very good about Mitch Griffiths being QB2 for the Red Raiders. But again, Texas Tech will have to discuss if they're going to go get a quarterback in the portal this offseason in terms of the caliber of it. But it feels like they're going to have to do it. They're going to have to, because if they bank on Will Hammond being back on the faster timeline, that's still not, giving them much wiggle room. And I don't know if you feel comfortable as a coaching staff, considering where this program is now, starting Mitch Griffiths in multiple meaningful games. I just don't know if you can do it. Okay. Kansas State overview. They have lost all of their games by a combined 14 points. Real culture in Manhattan. Joey McGuire talked about that. One of the best wide receivers in the country. We'll go more in depth on the players you need to know outside of Avery Johnson later on in the week in the game preview that will be posted here on the channel on Wednesday. But the number one thing for Texas Tech in terms of the massive defensive test in Manhattan is this: can they create more turnovers than Kansas State? Kansas State is one of, if not the best team in the country at creating turnovers. The Red Raiders have to win the turnover margins in this football game, and that starts obviously with the defensive side of the football and having that ball security on offense. If Texas Tech can win the turnover battle against Kansas State, I think this game really swings in terms of the proverbial pendulum to the Red Raiders side of things in this one. McGuire was also asked about how Texas Tech just seemingly cannot keep a quarterback healthy for an entire season. And he just says it's unlucky. This has been an issue for years now, But McGuire also joked maybe they're on an Indian burial ground. Do they have to sacrifice a chicken like in the movie Major League to just make this go away? But it's unfortunate. It's just part of the game. But they've done a very good job, Texas Tech has, as really leaning into the advanced medicine, whether that's from the, concussion side of things, other, appendages on the body in terms of making sure that those are good from a health perspective and have the most advanced science. But unfortunately, sometimes it just doesn't go your way. I mean, I don't know any other way to say it. Offensive line improvements. He said they have to get better and get back to dominating the run game. The best that they played, McGuire said, was against Kansas in the run game. I don't think that that's a surprise to anybody. I mean, Cam Dickey was phenomenal in that game, right? But they need to produce better lanes for running backs specifically. And this week is going to be a huge test. And we talked about it in the video here, the good and the bad from Oklahoma State. I called out the offensive line in terms of they have to be better. If they played like they did against Oklahoma State, against Kansas State, it's going to be nightmare type fuel for the Texas Tech offense against a legitimate pass rush in the Kansas State Wildcats. Now, McGuire also mentioned this, just a couple more points before we head out of here. He mentioned that their sole focus is on Kansas State. I know I mentioned this a little bit earlier on in the video, but everyone in that building is focused on Kansas State, even if some of us are looking ahead to BYU, and understandably so, you're a fan, right? But it sounds like the Arizona State game really flipped a switch, per se, in a lot of these guys' minds. Not to the fact that they didn't think there was a chance that they would lose or anything like that, but in terms of they're focused right where their feet are and what their controllables are. And they've always been like that, but it really made them focus on it now. And I think that this team is going to be uber focused against Kansas State in a game that really is the biggest game this program has had in the last 20 years, damn near. Okay. And that's something that we're going to be saying really if Texas Tech holds up their end of the bargain on the gridiron for the foreseeable future. Because if you win and you continue to win, right, you're going to be in some very big games if you're Texas Tech. And truth be told, the Red Raiders haven't played a ton of meaningful football late in the year in the last, 18 years or so. It's been a lot. Now, want to end it on the positive note in terms of Skylar Gill-Howard. I know he's out for the foreseeable future, but he will travel with the team to Manhattan. And some positives that have come from that injury that is unfortunate, but it happens. It's football. Lee Hunter, according to Joey McGuire, has been more vocal since the Skylar Gill-Howard injury. Skylar Gill-Howard will also be receiving his degree from Texas Tech and has really embraced that leadership role that he already had, but even more so now, making sure that he is around the guys, making sure that the vibes are good, and that he is helping this team as much as possible. And the Red Raiders really, truly need a guy like that on the defensive side of the football. They have plenty, and Jacob Rodriguez, guys like that. But if you have more, hey, more the merrier, right? But again, the big news for Texas Tech in this one, Behren Morton will be starting for the Texas Tech Red Raiders at Kansas State this Saturday afternoon. And one of the biggest games in Texas Tech, recent memory for this program. But that's going to do it for today's video. Appreciate y'all tuning in. As always, be sure to like the video, hit that subscribe button to join the largest group of Texas Tech fans here on YouTube and the Red and Black Report. I'm RC Maxfield reminding you, as always, stay safe and Wreck 'em Tech.